even after you like break up with your boyfriend, you don't immediately get over him. It's okay that like when you feel hurt by your best friend betraying you, that you take time to like wallow in your grief and like feel sadness. This is what we are pushing on our side of the house. And for all those reasons, we proudly support the motion that time heals all wounds. But before moving on to like Delta and stuff, right? Let's allow me to like rebut a few points. First of all, they mentioned that in here, what they are like opposing is that if you take a lot of time, you might procure some bad habits. Now, we think that this is an okay trade-off because it has the more net benefit. Sure, you might be like lazy or you might like gain weight or something, but we think that it's okay because you can always reverse that. You can always be more productive again. You can always like go on a diet or something after you fix the main problem, right? It's okay for you to take time because at least the core problem is solved and at least you make peace with yourself. And we believe that is the most important thing in this debate, right? We believe that the most important things are the victim feel that they are okay, that they are satisfied. And we believe that this is a fair trade-off.
You know what?
And you made that trade-off. Um, feel like that, sure.
What exactly are you thinking when I clearly stated that the impacts or the bad habits that is procured is something related to that trauma itself? How can you respond to that?
Alright, we believe that's like irrelevant because like notice if you say like after they solve the issue, they still have bad habits. Notice if they do feel in themselves that they are or that their inside trauma is already fixed already, the bad habits can always be negated, right? If they haven't fixed the trauma, then they should like go to seek help. Like what we're talking about here is like if they already like fix the trauma, fix it inside themselves, but still have prepared bad habits, and we still think that's a fair trade-off, right? Second point of proposal, they mentioned how like at least in their side of the house, you can change how the outcome occurs. We don't understand how this is exactly exclusive to their side of the house, but we have already mentioned this in our like first speaker, right? In our first speaker, we already outlined to you how this motion looks like for an individual. That it's okay if I still feel hurt by this. It's okay that we accept the fact that we still feel petty or we still feel anger or we still feel guilt. However, we also accept the fact that like life keeps on turning and eventually we will come to a point where we are like happy with ourselves, right? We don't see how like in our side of the house there's like an guilt like very long process of we don't understand how like that is exclusive to our side of the house. How like you can only change the outcome in their side of the house. Go by this. Right, but like third point of rebuttal, they mentioned that there's like no incentive for the people to like better themselves, right? 2 points of rebuttal to this. First of all, we believe that the most important point of like incentive comes from like inside of yourself, in which like you understand that like time heals, that like you will need time to heal, but like you can seek help from like other sources to like make that process go faster, right? And we believe that it's less pressure on like the victims, and like they're able to like seek help that actually like benefit them. Because notice panels, how like since their very first speaker, they never have like epistemic access to know if whether or not like these certain like solutions they are proposing actually work for everyone, right? We believe that like these solutions aren't like holistic. They never mention like why exactly, like because we have mentioned since from our second speaker that again like people take different times to heal, right? Like talking to someone might work for some other thing, but like somebody else might not feel comfortable to talk to a psychologist, and as such they might feel comfortable to like think of it themselves or like talk to their family member, and we think that's totally fine, right? We don't think there's like a certain standards of how like victims should heal. So like again, so moving on, let's crystallize the debate panels. We believe that like psychologists still exist in status quo, police still exist in their status quo, so we believe that their point about how like rape victims wouldn't like report their rapes is a bit like is irrelevant, because like again we feel like what this motion is more about is a narrative that inside of you, are you healed from their trauma? How like are you like, if we're talking about like sexual assault, we believe that this comes in the form of like, are you comfortable to like go outside again? We believe this comes in the form of like, are you comfortable to like be like with like the gender that like assaulted you, right? It's less of like the external impacts and more of it on themselves. So we don't believe why they like brought up that impact in the first place. But like again, so like we feel like this debate is more about like whether the narrative that healing takes time is a good narrative or not, right now. And we have proven our burden on like why that is. A bit more on that later. So like a few fatal mistakes I would like to point out. First of all, they mischaracterized like the narrative at the very start, making it seem like as if like this narrative means that you just stand there and like suddenly like time will hit you. Well, obviously that is like not the case, right? But like second of panels, they never give an analysis on why this narrative only applies to severe cases of guilt, right? They never of grief, sorry. They never like explain to us why it doesn't apply to normal cases, like for example, like being betrayed by your friend, or like breaking up with your like boyfriend or something. Because like they mentioned in their second speaker that's only for severe cases, and we don't understand like the analysis in that, because obviously like for severe cases there would be human empathy, right? Like if your like dad got killed, obviously someone wouldn't say like it's okay, just wait for time to happen, right? We believe that this narrative exists more on like sides of grief that can be healed with time, and not the like severe cases where they keep like making up worst case scenarios about like what this narrative actually does, right? So like a few points of clashes. The first of all, I think the first important clash was that they could bring up points about how in our side the victims would stay silent. A few points of, however, we managed to counteract this by saying that again, like the cycle still exists, like police still exist, right? And like this debate is like about a whole other thing. But like so like why exactly do people stay silent? We feel like people stay silent, but it's more about like for example like guilt and shame over like and like it's more like societal standards on like for example in like their case like sexual assault, like about like not being listened to by the police. We believe there are like so many other reasons on why someone would choose not to speak up, and we don't understand why they think why their think is like it's so likely that the reason they choose to be silent is because of this specific narratives, right? But like second of all, they mentioned that like in our side of the house, people will say you have to get over it. Notice panels how this is like in direct contrast with the narrative, because the narrative says that it takes time. We don't understand how people will say you will get over it, but the narrative clearly states that it's a process, right? But like second clash, they meant so I feel like the second clash and the most important one is actually like which side actually like is better for the victim, right? And we believe that like our side is better for the victim because A, there's no pressure in what the methods the victims use to like to heal. But like second of all, the victims don't feel pressure that they have to heal automatically. They don't feel pressure that there's like a certain time limit that like at a certain point in time they have to be fine, because we know that it takes time, and we believe that it's so important for like the victims to do that, right? So like we win this debate because simply we proved our burden. We given to you the counterfactual and why that's explicitly more worse for the victims, and we have proven to you why it's exactly better for victims with a likelihood analysis. We prove it to you and like how it promotes self growth and like how exact and like it's just better. For all those reasons, come to a close. Thank you.